For centuries uncounted, men have told a tale of a fabled island in a distant sea. A land of giants where the strong survive, and they are given God's graces upon the battlefield. This is the legend of Elbaf.
Yeah, I think I'll take this off just for everybody's sanity's sake. Hey everybody, Tekking101 here, and welcome to One Piece Chapter 866 review, titled Natural Born Destroyer. Yes, Natural Born Killer. We continue the cover serial, which, you know, I was surprised they kept on going with Cavendish. I thought they were going to jump to somebody else. I thought it was going to be like 2 chapters per every member of the Straw Hat Fleet, but hey, who cares? 3 or 4 chapters each, that'd be cool. And we actually find out that Cavendish is such a pimp. He is so freaking attractive that every single woman in his home country has not married solely because they are all trying to get his dick. Like, there's women, like, passing out in the crowd at the sight of this sexy man right here. So we're going back 63 years to the land of Elbaf, the land of the giants, and also many different kinds of Norse mythology. So this is the first time we're seeing this island. It's pretty damn cool. We get a layout of it here, and, you know, it's very similar to what we saw last chapter at the very end, but then we get this thing in the background here. I mean, I would say that's the big tree we saw last chapter, except the tree was more to the right of the panel, and we can kind of see it right here. But I don't know what this is. It honestly kind of reminds me of the Gates of Justice, a big, huge door in the distance, but I'm not really sure what that is. It could just be like a ray of light or something. I'm not sure. But anyway, so the deal here is that Big Mom now, or Charlotte Linlin, she is yet to be Big Mom. She is now Little Daughter, although not very little, because even at the age of 5, she was fucking huge, much bigger than the average human. However, it actually states that, yeah, Charlotte Linlin, 5-year-old human. So, yeah, I don't know how this works. Now, it's the One Piece world. There's always discrepancies with this. You know, you could just end up with a human that ends up really big. I don't know. Like, there were those humans that the Frankie family had in their employ, like the strong men, you know, that were, you know, I don't know if it was ever specified that they were half giant or something, but they were much bigger than the average human, and that might just be what Charlotte Linlin is. She's just a superhuman. Just at birth, she just ended up being bigger than most humans, but not quite as big as giants yet. Because even currently in the story, how big Big Mom is, giants, I would still say, have her beat, at least a little bit in terms of height. Girth is another, that's another ballpark there. But yeah, Big Mom pretty much looks just like she does now, just a little bit younger, you know. She still has the same mouth, same basic frame, and the hair and everything like that. Does not radically different, just a lot younger here. Essentially, her parents brought her to this island, Elbaf, dropped her off, and are essentially planning on leaving her there because of how much, well, I mean, the food bills alone have to be astronomical, but no, they hint that she's much more dangerous than she lets on. She seems like a very innocent young girl that doesn't really want to do anything other than just, you know, have fun and eat candy. And so they're like, oh, just stay here, Charlotte. We'll be back to get you. You can eat as much candy from your knapsack as possible. So it's like an obese Dora the Explorer. All right, fine. It's like, knapsack, yay! And so she just starts shoving candy in her freaking mouth. And her family, her mother and father, as well as everyone else on the ship, is like, okay, we have completed Operation Beached Whale. Let's cheese it the hell out of here, guys. Okay, look, if Oda's plan here is trying to make us feel sympathy for Big Mom, you know what? I would be, no, I was gonna say I would be much more likely to feel sympathy for Big Mom than Pudding, but they're about both on the same level here. Alright, so here's where we need to be for me to start feeling sympathy for Big Mom. Like, oh man, Big Mom really had a tragic past. I feel sorry for her. Here's where we need to be. Here's where we started. The first panel of this chapter brought us up to, like, here. We got a long way to go, okay? Her parents dumped her off on a giant island. Alright, we got a long way to go. All right, so she's just sitting there watching the coast. You know, there's giant walruses, there's giant fish. Eventually, it starts to snow, and she's like, "Oh, I'm hungry. That's weird. They're not coming back for me. They're so late." I was like, "Okay, wah wah, boo hoo." So very briefly, we cut back even further in the past. We get the dialogue of the narrator. He states that, well, I guess it wouldn't be dialogue if it's the narrator, but you know what I mean. We get narration that's like, one can scarcely mention Elbaf without mentioning the two great giant warriors, Dory and Broggy, and their epic duel to the death. It's a legend, yes. So, of course, 100 years prior to the storyline, that is 37 years before Big Mom was dropped off by her parents, you have Dory and Broggy, which were the leaders of the giant warrior pirates. They were dual captains that went all and up the Grand Line, you know, and doing traditional Viking shit, you know, just fucking pillaging villages, burning shit down, eating some, you know, big meat, pig, sea king, whatever the fuck giants eat, drinking some grog. You know, they lived the genuine pirate life. And keep in mind, this is before Gold Roger and Silver. This is before all that shit. In fact, if I'm calculating this shit correctly, 63 years ago, at the time when Big Mom was 5 years old, Rayleigh and Garp would be like 15 and Roger would have been like 14. So, you know, we're way back before the time of their epic journey, right? So, and that's the case here. We're going back even further, 100 years. So, yeah, piracy was still a big deal, but it probably, like, the government probably wasn't as hard-ass on them as they were now, from what we're about to see. So, Dory and Broggy get into an argument over who caught the bigger Sea King, and then they start dueling on Little Garden. But you still have the giant warrior pirates that are still, you know, numerous giants that are on these big, huge, long war boats that are still going from island to island. They left Little Garden because their captains, that was like the warriors' code of Elbaf. It's like it has to be settled between men, so they left them. They left them on Little Garden and be like, okay, this is how it's done. This is how it works. It's all graces in the god of Elbaf or whatever the fuck. So they're still pillaging villages, but they don't have any captains now. I'm sure there was an acting captain or something, but you know, they got sloppy essentially, and it was because of that, and because they didn't have their captains with them, they ended up getting captured by the Marines. So somehow the Marines managed to capture all of these fucking giants. I have no idea what the brute force of the Marines were back then. I don't know what kind of badasses the Marines were 100 years ago, but apparently if they could capture like a shit ton of giants, you don't fuck with them is the general idea. So they're all locked up in the stockades ready to get freaking executed. They stood at the gallows when all of a sudden a wandering woman of the cloth, a beauty, appeared. Her name was Sister Caramel, and she cried out for the heavens because they, you know, she was like, the heavens cry out for peace, please stop, don't kill them. And the Marines were all just like, what the fuck are you talking about, lady? These are giants. They killed so many people. They burned so many villages down. But at the exact same time this happened, as Sister Caramel cried out, the fucking skies begin to darken. The weather begins to change. It begins to downpour. And right on the scaffolding, right on Sister Caramel, a single ray of light emitted down, as if the gods themselves were giving them, you know, their approval of her act or whatever the fuck. So, I guess they didn't execute them? Does it actually even... I don't know. I can't remember if it actually said. I don't think it actually says that the Marines just let them go. I'm not really sure what became of that. But at any rate, at that moment, Sister Caramel became a worldwide known figure. She became this person that apparently has the graces of the gods behind her, and then she'll always help people. And so she started a house called the Lamb's House for children who were nowhere to go. Their parents would abandon them, or they were ravaged by war or by famine. She would bring everybody in and always try to give somebody a second chance, and that was where the legend of Mother Caramel began. Keep in mind, we're still 100 years ago, so we're cutting back now to the flashback with Big Mom 37 years later. So Mother Caramel is now running the Lamb's House. She's been doing so for many years, and she is now 80 years old. So also keep in mind, in this flashback right here, Mother Caramel or Sister Caramel, yeah, she's 43 years old here, so hot damn, I'm just saying. Okay, well anyway, 37 years later, we have her running this Lamb's House. A bunch of children are basically there, you know, the vagabonds of the world that she's caring after, and she's on Elbaf. And Mother Caramel takes in Charlotte Linlin as a very young child, and she's like, it's okay, you can come here, you can live with us, it'll all be fine, you can play with your sisters and brothers and all that. The kids are a little bit mean because they're all like, you know, your parents are never coming back for you. But, you know, honestly, honestly, we don't get that much from Big Mom being, like, really upset that her parents left her. I mean, she cries a little bit about it, but really it's more of just, like, she's happy with her new... Like I said, she has a very straightforward personality, even at this young age, even more so at this young age. She really just cares about, like, food and like her friends and like what's immediately in front of her, so she doesn't shed too many tears about her parents. It's actually really cool for her because Elbaf is of course a land of giants, so you have these huge giants walking around, you have giant huts and dining halls and all this shit, and everything is big, and so she's always been bigger, so it's very comforting to her to find a place that's her size, that's more fit for her. And of course there's other giant children that she begins to play with as well as other children that are like normal size. You know, I don't really know why she chose to set this place up on Elbaf. You know, it seems like a random place. We don't really know how to get to Elbaf, if it's like a really easy place to get to or what. It's in the New World, so it's pretty nutso in terms of just getting there initially. But yeah, that's where she sets up shop here. We get basically a flash forward, a bunch of like different scenes of her life while she's living on Elbaf. There was one moment where she put a bear and a wolf in a cage together to get them to stop fighting, and she smacked the bear because he was being mean, and the bear died instantly. And let me keep in mind here, this is not your standard, this is not the average bear. This is an Elbaf bear. This is a fucking bear that I could see the giants of Elbaf, you know, we shall form a hunting party and go out and we shall kill the giant bear that's terrorizing the mountain, fucking Grendel or some shit. I mean, like, we would come back and drink till our heart's content, you know. And Big Mom, 5-year-old Big Mom, one smack from her kills this fucking thing immediately. And she doesn't really realize how powerful she is. Mother Caramel's just consoling her and just like, you just wanted them to be friends, didn't you? And Big Mom's like, yeah, I just wanted them to be friends. How many times did you smack the bear? Just once. I'm like, holy shit, she killed it in one hit. What the fuck? I mean, yeah, well, you're just a good girl, aren't you? You just want them to be friends, right? Okay, Mother Caramel, let's talk about enabling. So basically, throughout the months, this kind of behavior continues. There was one person, I guess it was a giant named Airy, that had a mosquito on his arm, so Big Mom tried to slap it off of him and he broke a bone, or she broke his bone. So I'm assuming this Airy guy, which by the way, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but that's the name of a region in Iceland, so that's where that comes from. But anyway, I'm assuming that person is a giant, because if a normal human had a mosquito on them and Big Mom, you know, Charlotte tried to slap it, would be pounded into fucking fish bait, it'd be gone. So I'm imagining like, oh, there's a giant with a mosquito on his arm, and then, you know, Big Mom smacks it and fucking breaks his arm as a giant. So I'm assuming how that went. Throughout the years, there's several other people that come to the Lamb House. So there's like a long arm tribe member, and Big Mom's like, I'm gonna rip off his arms because they have too many joints. I'm gonna fix him. And then a fishman comes and he's like, I'm gonna rip off these fins so he's more like me. And then Mother Caramel has to keep reminding her like, no, that's a member of the long arm tribe. That's how they're supposed to be. That's a member of the Fishmans. That's how they're supposed to be. They're fine the way they are. They're normal. You don't have to mess with them. And basically though, she keeps forgiving every single thing that Big Mom does, that Charlotte Linlin does. So yeah, Mother Caramel, big time enabler, not a really good thing. Later on, we get a look at, Oimo and Kashi are there. That's pretty cool. So yeah, Oimo and Kashi, they're still on the island. They're not going to head back to find Dory and Broggy for another 10 years, okay? So about 50 years, they're going to head out, and they eventually end up getting captured by the Marines too, and they get put in charge of that giant gate on Ennie's lobby. Eventually, Usopp meets up with them and tells them about Dory and Broggy, and I think they head on back to Elbaf, you know, to try to, like, wait for their masters to return. So that's pretty cool. We got to see them there. That's pretty neat. They haven't headed out quite yet then. And we get to hear a little bit about an event that occurs during the winter solstice on Elbaf. This is about 10 months or so after Charlotte Linlin has arrived there. So on the days leading up to the winter solstice, there's a 12-day fast where all you can do is drink water. You're not allowed to eat food. And after this fast, you have the sun festival, you know, praising, you know, the sun and all its glory and everything like that. And then you have this big-ass feast. But you gotta fast for 12 days. So, I think we all know where we're going with this. Yeah, they're all gonna fast and they're gonna have a nice meal and it's gonna be a great Christmas. I think that's where we're all going with this. Yeah, that makes sense. Christmas and Elbaf. Alright, is there any other cameos in this chat? Oh, Hyrujine's there. That's pretty sweet. Yeah, so Hyrujine, he's probably about 18, 19 years old at this point, so this is what a teenage giant looks like. Still a pretty formidable guy, and he's training, trying to become a great warrior like Dory and Broggy, you know, somebody that people that he obviously looks up to. They're like the heroes of the country. So we get to see him there. That's pretty cool. Not really much to say. He doesn't really do much anything else in the chapter. Just an interesting little cameo. Oda remembers. Like I would imagine sometimes Oda goes back and like checks the One Piece wiki or something and be like, all right, how many giants are there again? Oh yeah, they're like, oh okay, these, yeah, I gotta make sure to show these 4 here. So that's something there. Cool. I was also looking around for Stanson, which I don't know if that's supposed to be him. His hat looks kind of similar to Stanson's. I don't know. But anyway, Stanson's the giant that was in the Sabaondi archipelago, you know, the auction house, and he looked rather young compared to a lot of other, you know, giants. You know, like I think Hyrujine right now in the story is like 80 years old, and he looks like he's in his mid-30s. You know, so you know, Stanson looked a little bit younger than that, so here he's probably just a child. I don't know if that's him or not. But one thing is interesting, we get to see some older giants because we have 2 really ancient giants that appear in the village getting ready for the winter solstice. These are Yarle Montbeard and Yorle Fallbeard, so the mountain beard and the waterfall beard. And these are 2 of the oldest giants on the island. They're not, I originally saw these guys and I was like, oh shit, this is like Odin and Thor arriving on the scene or something. Like, no, they're not royalty. They're just like 2 of the greatest warriors on the island. They're 2 of the oldest members of the giant race. Yorle being 344 years old and Yarle being 345. Now, giants, from what they've said, like, they live on average around 300 years. So this would make sense. You know, like, the average life expectancy of a human is, what, around 80, 85 years? It depends on gender and other factors, like where you grow up and shit. But average life expectancy about around normal humans in our world, let's say that's around 80. But then you still have people that live, like, my grandfather's going to turn 96 this year. So, yeah, you have different humans that live a little bit longer, you know, so that's the kind of shit that makes sense there. So yeah, they're arriving at the town though to pass out semla. So apparently before the winter solstice gets kicked off into high gear, everybody in town gets together and eats this what's it? How's she described it? It's like a pastry that's made out of marzipan and whipped cream, and it's like a, oh, okay, it's like a gob. All right, I know what that is. Yeah, gob. Oh, I might have to explain this to you. Many of you might know them as whoopie pies, or like, yeah, there's other names for them, but here in Pennsylvania, we call them gobs, and I'm not usually a huge fan of them. They're a little bit too sweet for my taste, a little bit too much going on there. But yeah, it's like, you know, cake and cream just put together in like a sandwich form. They're pretty good, I guess. They don't really tickle my fancy. But yeah, all around here we always call them gobs. I don't know if you call them something else. It must be like a Pennsylvanian dialect thing. But yeah, so basically they're all going to get together and they're going to eat these semlas, and then they're going to fast for 12 days. And so Big Mom is going to be, oh, fuck. This isn't going to end well. Oh, so many people are about to die. But before we get to the day of reckoning upon Elbaf, coated in whipped cream and marzipan, we also get a drop that the prince has been born rather recently. This is Prince Loki, of course. This is eventually going to be the person that Lola is going to break off her marriage with, and that pisses off all the giants for Big Mom even further. Probably from what we're going to see by the end of this chapter, they were already kind of not happy with her, but this made it even worse. Also, Loki has some brothers, Rold, Gold, and Bolg. I don't know if this is going along with Thor, because Thor has brothers too. And Loki, by the way, in normal mythology, like, disregard what you know about the Marvel universe for a second, Loki's not really so much Thor's brother in actual mythology. He's more of like Odin's brother, if I'm remembering this correctly. But anyway, yeah, Thor does have brothers though. Balder, Vior, and I can't pronounce it because there's so many different accents. It's like Viorr, but there's like shit and like accents over it. And then Vali is another brother that Thor has. But yeah, I don't know if that's referencing that or whatever. But yeah, so Loki was just born, so that's cool. We get a general idea of how old he is. So he's probably a very young giant comparably to everyone else. Younger than Hardri. I always want to say Hargion because that sounds like such a cool name, but it's not even close to like that. It's Hyrujine, but okay, whatever. Anyway, it begins though. They begin to pass out the semla, and Big Mom goes fucking nutso and begins shoveling them into her mouth. She's so happy. It's so sweet. It's so good. the giants have to hold her back. Like, it's like, hold back there, Charlotte Linlin, you can't eat this many. And, you know, so she's just shoving her mouth. And then we cut to the days of the fast, you know, and it's like the third day of the fast. She's like, I'm so hungry. Fourth day of the fast. She's like, I'm so thin. And she hasn't changed at all, but, you know, she looks a little bit of an eating disorder, I'd say. Maybe you want to get that checked. Okay, no? All right, fine. The fourth day. It hurts so much. And Mother Caramel keeps trying to console her, like, oh, you'll love it even more after the 12 days. 12 days seems like a pretty bad... I mean, for giants, it's probably not a big deal, but I couldn't go 12 days without eating. Not eating anything, you know, not even like anything at all. Like, just water for 12 days? I would be in a fucking coma. Like, I guess for giants it's different, but hell, there's humans living on this island too. You know, you compensate for that a little bit or something. You know, even in most fasts in the world right now, like, I know Muslims fast and everything, they're not going to be so cruel as, like, you're on the ground in a fucking coma because you haven't eaten anything. Well, it's only day 4 of the fast, so, you know, like, no, they're not going to be that mean about it. They'll be like, okay, you can have some food because this is experiencing circumstances, you know, whatever. Anyway, by the 7th day, you have Gertha, who is one of Big Mom's friends, one of her, she's also a giant child, you know. She bursts into the house and she's like, it's horrible, Mother, it's Linlin, something's bad happened. And then so Big Mom walks outside and the entire village just it looks like the whole thing's just engulfed in flames. Giants are dead, fucking sword wounds everywhere. And in the center of them all, there's Charlotte Linlin screeching out for her Samra! You know, emitting probably a huge wave of Conqueror's Hockey, just unabashed, unrestricted Conqueror's Hockey, the same shit we saw like with Luffy when he first learned how to do it. People are passing out left and right, giants are trying to kill her, and we have Yorli there, one of the older giants I mentioned, and he's raising up his sword ready to cut down Charlotte Linlin, and then Mother Caramel is still, even to this point, even after seeing the death and destruction in her wake, she's like, no, it's just a child, don't do it, Yorli. And it's just like, he's like, I'm sorry, Mother Caramel, but this is no child. This is a demon! And he tries to cut her down. We don't get to see what happens, though, because it just cuts to her looking pretty damn creepy, an unstoppable appetite, and just utters, Samla. And then that's the end of the chapter. So, yeah, that went about as well as I thought it would. It's pretty cool, though. I mean, we don't get to see the island as much as I liked we would have seen. Maybe we'll get to that later. Like, this is just going to be like an introductory to Elbaf. Like, okay, we get to see the basic layout of the island, and we get to see Loki name dropped, and all the, like, Loki's brothers, like Golder and Balder, and we get to see them. And, you know, Hyrujine's there, and we get to see these older dudes, and Oimo and Kashi, we get to touch base with them. But then later on, when we actually get to the real present story, because I think that's going to have something to do with Usopp. I mean, it kind of has to. Some people were disappointed, by the way, that, you know, Elbaf is not introduced in the present storyline for Usopp. You know, I'm fine with that as long as we still get... I'm pretty sure we're still going to have a moment where Usopp gets to Elbaf. I mean, we're going to still have that moment. That's pretty cool. But, yeah, Big Mom's design, you know, I was maybe... I didn't know which way that Oda was going to go about it. If he was going to draw Big Mom as, like, a normal, like, 5-year-old girl, and then something happened in her past that made her that big or something. I don't know. But they went with the, you know, the standard, oh, she's the same all around. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Let's see here. You get to see those 2 older giants. That was really neat. We didn't get to see any of the royalty of Elbaf. We didn't get to see Odin or Loki, the prince himself, who's just born. But we got enough cameos that I think that made up for it. We get a little bit about the culture and the Sun Festival and the solstice and you know, how things operate on Elbaf. So that's pretty neat there. You know, I was always under the impression, you know, Elbaf was going to be this really huge, big, like, warring, you know, it's like no place for children kind of place. No place for normal children, I should say. But it's a relatively, you know, very, very stable island, you know, where all the giants coming together and helping to build this community, and they accept Mother Caramel and what she's doing there. We get to see Mother Caramel herself. I did a video yesterday talking about my theories on Mother Caramel and her abilities, because we only got to see that at the beginning of the chapter, so go check that out right here. The whole idea of Big Mom possibly having Dragon's devil fruit before Dragon does, the ability to manipulate the weather in some way. It's very interesting. interesting how she was able to call the dark clouds and cause the rain and have the light shown on her. It just seemed very, very suspect to me. But, yeah. Anyway, though, next chapter, I hope we continue the flashback. I hope we get to see right where we left off, though. I get to see that. Because the whole reason that Big Mom gave, because why the Giants hate her, is because Lola and the marriage between Lola and Loki, that didn't go too well. But you think, like, if this is the past that Big Mom's had with the Giants, they would just hate her for this. I'm thinking that Mother Caramel's probably going to sacrifice herself to make sure that, you know, Charlotte Linlin is saved or doesn't get killed or something. And then Big Mom's going to come, because whenever she's in the middle of her hunger pain thing, she doesn't remember anything after she comes out of it. So she'll probably come out of this and the whole island will be wrecked and she'll like, what happened? I don't know what's going on here. Where's Mother Caramel? And it's like, oh, she left. I'm like, oh, where did she go? She'll be back. Oh, okay. But yeah, Mother Caramel is probably going to sacrifice herself here so that Charlotte survives or doesn't get killed by the Giants or something. She's going to do something that's going to result in the death of Mother Caramel. So that'll be interesting to see how that's going to go about. Hope we get to see a little bit more of Elbaf in the next video, in the next review. Thanks you guys for watching. This will be Tekking101 signing out.